Hi, welcome back to FutureFast. And today we have a very special guest. And before I introduce him, for those of you who are here for the first time, FutureFast is an effort to bring people who are doing things that are bound to have an impact on the future. And we'll try to learn how they are approaching it and what are their perception of risk or opportunity in the days ahead, and are there pointers that we could draw out of this conversation that we could potentially use it in our own business or life. So that's what we try to do. And today we have with us Mr. Mathura Kalauny, and I would just introduce him with one line because we'll hear in his own words his journey. I could perhaps say that he's the anchor of Hindi theater in Bangalore for over 30, 35 years. So, so what exactly does that mean? And some of you may already be familiar with some of his works in books, but we will hear it from his own words. Mr. Kalauny, thank you so much for making time to join us here. Welcome to FutureFast.
Thank you very much for having me here and giving me this honor of talking to you all. Where do we begin with?
Your journey.
As Mr. Palakanda told you, my name is Mathura Kalauny. I'll start the beginning from the very beginning. I'd say I belong to Bangalore nowadays, but my roots are in Uttarakhand. And in a remote village, I was born there. And I was there till 10 years. And after that, I shifted to Calcutta. And around in 1970s, I came to Bangalore and I've stayed in Bangalore since then. So my education happened in Calcutta. So basically, you want to know how I came into writing line, as I understand. So I'll tell you a brief, I'll give you a brief this one. The village I belong to is called Magankola. Now it's a ghost village. Nobody stays there. It's a hill village, very small village. Only families, one family, two family villages are there. So normally people from the village of that area go to military. My father also went to military, was in British Army. When he retired, he came to Calcutta. And we all stayed behind in the village. He was in Calcutta. And in village life is very free. Not like aisa mat karo, waisa mat karo. It's very free. So women folk do their job, men folk do their job, and children go to school. And when they come back, they also help in the chore. And you are free to do anything. We used to do, we used to have a lot of creativity. So sometimes this creativity went wrong also because in my village, my senior cousins, they started bunking their school. And we had two groups, of the senior group and the junior group. Junior group, we had me and my cousins, the three fellows were there. In the senior group, there are the four fellows, and they started bunking the village, bunking the school. And they instead of going to school, they used to go to small cave and spend the day there. They used to play cards, smoke bidi, smoke ganja. This was. Now we found out that these fellows are not going to school. So just we'll tell the elders that you are doing this. So just to keep their secret, they dragged us and made us smoke cigarettes and all those. So we also started bunking the school. Now, in one particular day, we're having one competition. A small pointed stone. You throw like this, and it makes a sound. And we say whose stone goes furthest and maximum sound. That was the competition. So when my turn came, I also went and it didn't create a sound, but it went quite further. 5 minutes later, somebody came to this one. It was my uncle. His head was all blooded by stone as he came there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So that stone, then my uncle wrote very strongly to my father, your son is gone to dogs, take him to Calcutta. Otherwise, So that stone was a turning point. The stone was a turning point of my life, because if he hadn't gone there, probably I would have joined the military or something. Because I went to Calcutta because of that stone. In Calcutta, I was a lonely boy because my mother stayed back, and then my education happened there, and had this one. From the beginning only, I have been in those times. We used to write letters. I used to write beautiful prose. I knew that I'm in that, so I used to write letters. When you write a letter to your friend or your family or friends, I say, why just write a mundane letter? Make it some flowery. So I used to write. So that habit was there. And my father was a member of this National Library in Calcutta, huge big library there. And I joined the library, and there I learned a lot of things. I read English and Hindi, basically I read there. So my knowledge came from there. I know a lot of things are happening. So probably somewhere that Ankur bolte, the bees, the seed was there for inside me to writing. But I never went on. Then I got married, came to Bangalore.
No, but those days, Calcutta was a very happening city, right? Because it was the pre-communist era. So Calcutta was pretty much the business hub, right?
It was business
Before,
hub, but those are nationalite days, Kano Sanyagal and all those days. Because of
correct,
those days,
correct.
with I joined the ITC in the research department. Research was servicing all the 5 factories at that time. So we were, because the factory was always most time on the strike. So the whole the Indian business was getting affected. So we shifted to Bangalore. But Calcutta was a happening city, but because of this strife and all, it was in a very bad shape.
But
Lot
it
of
was
violence.
pre-communist communism, right? It was before Jyoti Basu.
Before Jyoti Basu. No, after Jyoti Basu. The Kano Sanyagal, remember the nationalite movement? That
Oh,
is the
that was then. Oh, right. Okay, okay.
Kano Sanyagal, I remember the name.
Hmm.
So I came to Bangalore. So in Calcutta, I had a 6-day week. Saturday also used to work. When you came to Bangalore, it was more organized. I got a 5-day week. So I had a one day extra. So I was generally at loose ends. So I'll tell you some other part of my story. I was slightly business oriented. I used to do a lot of business also side by side. But this one day I had a lot of time. I said, let me not write. Why not write something? So I started writing. I started writing in English because that was my natural language at that time. I graduated from St. James College, Calcutta. When I wrote, but outlets were very limited. Illustrated Weekly of India, Feminine, they all returned. Then I started writing it in Hindi. I was just instant success. So 80s and 90s I wrote, and I wrote nearly 150 stories. I wrote more, but 150 stories were published by all
Oh,
5 or 6 national magazines. So my people may not know my face, but my people still remember my name. In the Bangalore literary circle, people know there's one guy from in Bangalore whose name is Kalauny. He writes in Hindi. They didn't know where to find me. Because the name was used to come to somehow they got the address, and they came to my house in Vazirjinagar at that time. And that's how we met the Bangalore literacy. Bangalore also a lot of good Hindi stuff is happening nowadays.
right.
So that's how I started writing Hindi. So my genre is generally satire and humorous. Now, since people know that you're writing, so for any event, and they used to come to me. I said, Baba, I know write. I know I can't do. But in office functions and all, they used to make me, just produce some skit or something like that. So I started doing skits and all. Then that gave me a lot of, enthusiasm to write longer skits. And along the way, I read a few plays also. One of the plays I remember called Komal Gandhar. It's on Mahabharata, written by one Dr. Sanktashesh. So he's given his own interpretation of the events there. So I was very much impressed by that. This one. Then if I ever produce a play, I'll produce this one. Somehow, people helped me, and immediately I set up my Kalayan Theatre in 1988. And that was my first play I produced in Brunelapur then. That was a huge success. At that time, the ticket was 10 rupees. I still remember those days.
So that's when you registered your group
Kalayan.
as well.
At that time, I tell you, I didn't know what the direction was. I didn't know what I didn't know how what costume was. I had my own ideas. I made a Mahabharata costume, getting sarees from my friends, wives, and all. But people also helped. So the play was successful. Having tasted that, I said, let me do some more plays.
So which year was that? The first time you did?
1988, I started. 1989, I think January or February, this play was produced, staged in Guru Nanak Bhavan.
Okay.
Then at that time, very few. The staging hall was either Guru Nanak Bhavan, then this was their Chodai Memorial Hall.
Okay, but both are huge auditoriums, right?
Huge 1,000 seater, 1,011 seater. And at that time, it used to cost me 2,500 rupees. Now I think it's 1.5 lakhs, something like that. So after that play, then I did a lot of other, then I started writing. So at that time, I wrote one play on infidelity called Swayamvar. Something I saw, it was one of my short stories, which I converted into play. It was a huge hit at that time. I've staged 2-3 times, including Rangashankara. Then I took that play to Dubai also. It was very much appreciated there also. That was one good. Then another play I wrote was, I'm talking about the plays we are still playing, called Jod Tod. It's a comedy of errors, romantic comedy. And that also is a huge hit. And last I staged was in Lamakan in Hyderabad, just before COVID.
Right.
The third is Kayapalat. It's a science fiction, again comedy. And that I staged last year. These are my 3-4 plays. Other plays I have written was one love story from the hillside called Tab Hogi Bhet. And I did on Manto. Manto, you might have heard the name of Manto.
Yes.
So Manto is generally known for his...
I saw your play as well.
Manto. So Manto is famous for, people, a lot of people do plays on Manto.
Originally a script writer in Hindi, early Bollywood days. And he migrated to Pakistan during partition.
Yes. So he had, he wrote some beautiful plays, very impactful plays, but always with the same topic, prostitutes and all. He didn't progress further from there. So his 4-5 plays are very good, very impact. You read the whole play, suddenly it looks like somebody slapped you. After reading the last line. But there was one guy who hated him. His name was Upendranath Ashok. And this story I read in National Library days.
They were contemporaries.
Yes. Upendranath Ashok was at that time, he still is he's no more. He's a very known Hindi writer. But he was in the same radio department as Manto was there. So he's written his own Samsmaran, an autobiography. So he said that Manto Mera Dushman. So although he was a friend, but he behaved like a Dushman. I read. Then I don't know why he read this one, that Manto's real character was coming up. So Manto was not a very strong man. Because when he went to Pakistan, then he started writing only bullshit. Okay? Just to get a bottle of...
I thought he stopped writing when he moved to Pakistan, right?
No, he kept on writing. He used to write to get this bottle. He became drunkard. There was no money. To get the money, he used to write this. So you know what kind of literature he was writing. Finally, he died a very bad death, but some of his stories are great. So on that basis, both sides, I've compared Manto versus Upendranath Ashok in this play, Mera Dushman Manto. It was a huge hit. He saw that.
Oh, yes, I saw that. In fact, it was a good perspective to Manto, something like this. In fact, after some time, there was a movie also came in, Manto.
Manto, the movies and all, they only glorify Manto. Didn't
correct
this aspect. Then another play I wrote was on Premchand, collage of Premchand stories. So I selected some of his stories, converted into the play, and it was a very, very emotional. I did 6 or 7 shows in Jagriti. Every show was houseful. And some of the fellows, some of the old companions, they used to come crying. they asked, why didn't you write this story? Why didn't you show this story? They were so emotional about the content. That was another very satisfying play. Now I'm doing a play on Ashok.
Right, right.
Mm.
That's
Ashok was
from your
also,
book as well, right? That's a book
I have
you.
written a book on that. Ashok was also the same thing in National Library days. What, what I used to read this book and something never gelled in why Ashok is called Chandashok. You see, what history book tells us is Ashok was very cruel. He killed all his 99 brothers and became a king. And he did Kalinga war. After the war, he became Buddhist. That's the 4 lines they tell us. But when I read that in our national emblem, the Dharma Chakra is there, Ashoka's the pillars everywhere there, Ashoka this, Ashoka the Great it is called. But why the actual character is not shown to us, not brought us? Nobody tells us about this one.
Correct.
It didn't, some of that thing stayed in my mind.
Yeah, it
Then,
was a Ashoka the Great is quite a lie, right? It was
yeah.
a
Then I started,
manufactured narrative.
yeah, manufactured idea. Then I started reading. Then I came to know that, Ashoka, this thing come from this Lankan Buddha, Ashoka Vandana, Lankan literature, where they wanted to glorify this Buddhism, that they are shown Ashoka like that. Just because Ashoka was very bad, he saw Buddhism, he became Buddhist. They made it simplistic. But in northern literature, no, where there are so many visitors were there, so when there's some Chinese visitors were there, so and I've read a lot of things, but
Oh,
nowhere Ashoka is shown
incidentally,
as.
I read that one book where Sanjeev Sanyal has written. He actually refers, he's given some references also that there are official records to show that the time when he converted to Buddhism, from being a
Mm,
Hindu to Buddhism.
mm,
And what we are taught in the history is that he did the Kalinga War,
mm,
killed millions of
mm.
people, and that movie was also made like that, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah, yeah,
he feels guilty and then he becomes a Buddhist.
mm,
But historical data suggests that he first became Buddhist.
mm,
After becoming Buddhist, after
mm,
2 years of that, he goes for Kalinga War and then
mm.
kills millions of people.
Yeah,
It's
I had shown it slightly different. I showed you that he was always he had a lot of respect for Buddhism. He wanted to convert before also. He wanted to become a
well,
pasha.
officially, historically, he's supposed to have
His
converted
wife,
before.
first wife, and the story, my storyline is that the this Mahananda, might have heard,
Yeah.
Mahananda was Chanakya defeated Mahananda, then became Chandragupta became the king. So Mahananda after Maurya was defeated them, they just spread. They couldn't kill everybody. So a lot of fellows went to Kalinga. They stayed in Kalinga, but they always were, you know, keeping the grudge against them. They wanted to harm the Magadha Empire. So some of them, managed to do that, and they started creating a disturbance in Magad by killing the brothers. Whoever
Mhm,
used to go to there for shikar and all, they used to kill them. So I have come
mhm.
from that angle, and Ashok knew that these guys, my brothers, have been killed by Bhagat, by Kalinga, but I can't do anything. But he was not a king. He didn't want a kingdom. He went to Jain and married this girl Mahadevi, who was again from the same Sakya Kumari called, same bunch, same dynasty as Gautam Buddha was there. So she was a Buddhist. So he got under his influence. So he becomes so mentally disturbed about not able to do anything. He said, I want to convert. Then his wife tells him that you don't do that. If you want to convert with open mind after learning, not because you want to, you are in disturbed, you want to go to this one. That's not the way. So he said, if you want to convert, just stabilize first, then you convert. Then Susi, his brother, died, and he was given the kingdom. He didn't become the king for 4 years. It is written in the history. The 4 years he didn't go. He didn't have a Rajyabhishek. He was ruling the country from outside. So finally, after people forced him, then he became the king. 8 years after he became the king, this one, he did the Kalinga war happened. In the meantime, according to my story, I don't know how much you can say, according to the Kalinga wanted to do create a problem with Magad. Kalinga wanted to attack Magad.
Well,
And they
that's
used
the
to laugh.
popular narrative.
How can Kalinga, people used to laugh, how can this small Panni village, how can they take on mighty? But this guy was not interested in this Nanda fellow. He was not interested in, he wanted only destroy the modern fellows. That's all. He was not interested in other state and this Magad, some empire. So that's this. I did the 5 shows in BIC. They use it. So I'm doing it again in Jagriti, June 10th and 11th. It's a great.
Wonderful. Well, somewhere I think it is some bit of injustice to the history of Kalinga, because it is always portrayed that they were a small kingdom. But historically, the what we today call as Bay of Bengal was always called Kalinga Sagar. It is not possible that a whole sea is named after an empire and that empire is supposed to be very small or tiny. They must have been very powerful, and that is when the sea
They
gets
were.
named after them.
Even my book says so, because it was very natural for Magad to take Kalinga, because if Magad takes Kalinga, then the whole east is open to them. Because Kalinga was doing business with Java, Sumatra, Malaysia, all over the place. Which Magad didn't have a reach. It was very natural that Kalinga and Magad should have come together to do this business. So
Yeah,
Kalinga
and
Kalinga was a great
Even Sri Lanka had rulers from Odisha. So possibly
Yeah,
the
she was
Kalingas
called
had gone.
Tamrapani. She was called Tamrapani.
Right. So, so interesting. But Mr. Kalauny, how is I mean, you obviously didn't have a desk job, right? I think you had you moved to a business function
Yeah.
from your research role.
I was in mostly in product development.
Product
So
development.
I used to have a lot of touring and all. There's some time I used to have, life used to be hell. My play is happening there. I used to announce in the head office that I'm doing a play. Please, for 7 days, don't disturb me. People telling me that if I didn't do the play, I could have gone 2 notches up.
But despite that,
Yeah, it's a great,
you also had
satisfying.
a lot of travel, right? Your job involved a lot of travel.
Yeah, it involved traveling, yes. See, we had 5 factories and some license manufacturer, then marketing, and we had this American in New York also a big town. We are selling cigarette, making for them. So some problem used to come there. I was always called there, and I was the expert smoker, just evaluator. By smoking the
What does
cigarette.
that mean?
Evaluation. Have you heard of tea tasters?
Yes.
Because you are there's when tea taster. They taste the tea,
Yeah.
tell you the grade the tea.
Correct.
Similarly, they are a fragrance evaluator. So I was smoke evaluator.
So, so you basically smoke and say,
it's a very structured science.
oh, is that right? Okay.
Yes, the structured science was a smoke evaluator. And also we used a lot of fragrance, not fragrance, flavor ingredient into the cigarette. So those flavors I used to also evaluate along with this.
Okay,
Quite
that's
interesting
interesting.
topic. Yeah.
So a new product development would be you make these flavored
New product
cigarettes.
development. Old also. Suppose if you take any brand, say for example you're taking
Oh, it has
gold
to be
flake.
consistent.
Well, it has to be consistent because the crop is never consistent. Today, tomorrow, Periyapatna rain came and everything is washed out. But if you use that tobacco, taste won't be the same. So that's why you have to balance the taste. It's a continuous job, yes.
Right. And so, how many times do you have to smoke to clear?
Initially, you smoke more. But after that, once you get used to it, by few puffs, you know that. 3 or 4 puffs, you can, tell you what the cigarette character is there.
And so You said it's a science. How did you get trained for it? I mean, it's not
Some
some.
came, something was developed by BAT, our original company, British American Tobacco Company. Something we developed ourselves in house. Then we had I was not the only one, we had a team. So then, if one person cannot go, then it's always a conflict. So we had developed a method by which, their team, at least 10 fellows used to smoke, and we used to put it in the statistical package to, to, to see whether it is statistically different, significant or not significant. So it's a quite, quite involved thing.
Right. Interesting. So, but you spent all your life in the cigarette, or you also
All in
moved
cigarette.
around in the ITC businesses? They have started many other
No,
businesses.
I wanted to, in fact, to tell you very frankly, when I came from Calcutta, I wanted to change the company. So I was not very happy with the cigarette and all that. I wanted to change. But the cigarette company, at that time, jobs were very few. They're not like today's. Either you become a clerk or you become a scientist or something, or engineer. And I was a cigarette business and ITC was the best company. And same remained. So there's no other company which could give me that much money. So I stayed with tobacco. 40 years. Can you imagine? With one company, 40 years. Now people can't stay 4 years in the company.
Yeah. So, and apart from the plays, you also authored many books, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How many books?
8 plays I have written. These plays is published by one company called Notion Press. So all of them are available online. Before that, I have written 4 books, 6 books, 4 plus 6 books. They were published by smaller publisher in Delhi and other places, but they are all lost because they give you few copies, and after that, what happens you don't know. If you have more copies, those are gone. But other than that, these 6 books are available. These 8 books are available online.
So, whatever.
I must have written 15, 16 books by now. Not published. I have written many books. 21 plays I have written.
Oh,
I have
so there
not
are few more
uh,
to
yeah, all of
waiting
them
to
are
be
not published.
published. So, so you have some more queue books
Yeah,
in
yes,
your
yes, yes.
queue. Wonderful. And uh, how easy or difficult is it to do Hindi theater in Bangalore, and that too? You started off in the 80s.
80s.
I think most of the explosion of Bangalore from a point of population happened in the mid and late 90s. So
Yeah.
you were almost 10 years earlier here. So what was the
In
audience
those
like when
in
you
those
got
days
started?
when I started that place, so I used to do in plays in Chodia Memorial Hall, 2,500 rupees for this one. It would be huge cost at that time, and to get the audience, it used to be very tough. There were no people, just no walk in. So I used to go to Chipet. All
Okay.
the Hindu, this one is there. So I met a lot of youngsters, a lot of fellows there at that time. So I'm doing this. So people used to come. But there were two generations. The younger generation were coming towards the play, but the older generation what play? And they didn't understand plays and all of it. Is a dance or it is something. They said no, it's a waste of time. But younger generation started. So we literally used to, cart them to the Chodia Memorial Hall. Aao baba dekhe jao. So those are the days of stuff, but it was fun. Abhi to lot of fellows are there. Theatre is just vibrant in Bangalore. Any language, Hindi, English, Kannada, full.
Correct. No, but those days,
It was
uh,
tough. There was no hall. Where could you stage? You got the one place called Yavanika opposite
Yavanika,
Cinema.
that
I
was
used to
very
stay
cheap
there. That was the cheapest hall. Okay. Then
and
we
small
have
as well.
hall, only 300, but it was a cute small hall. But nobody used to go. The people did not know. And we did not get this Rangashankar of course not there.
Was not there.
Ravindra Southern was not available to everybody. That also is
Uh,
costly. Hmm?
oh, and
You
that's
had,
also huge, right? Ravindra Kalakshetra was a
yeah,
huge.
so you had either Chodia Memorial Hall or this Yavanika or Guru Nanak Bhavan. These 3, 4 only were there. but still we did.
Oh,
All the fellows at that time we used to have a great Deccan theatre festival used to have.
correct, Deccan Theatre.
Yeah. We used to have a theatre group from Chennai and all of that. Those are great days, good plays were happening. Nowadays, all instant Instagram generation. 10 rehearsal stage.
Right. And but theatre activity as such has increased, right? And there's
Yeah.
serious
Come on.
audience today.
Yeah. You see, nowadays, there's short films are, people are there in short film. When they're not getting short film, they want to come to the theatre. Short film
Correct.
theatre, this one.
Right. Uh, but this has become a way to get into acting as a career, right? For many people.
Yeah. People are doing that. In the last play, from this play only, last play, when I did this Kayapalat, and two fellows have gone to Bombay. From my own group, from over the years, at least 4-5 fellows have gone to play. At least 2 are doing very good on the film line.
What are their names?
One is Nandan, other is Kundan. Kundan recently phoned me. So he used to do whatever theatre, whatever business came to me, he went to Bombay, he was very busy. जो भी मिलता था करता था वो. You used to see him in some small ad film is there, he is doing there. Finally, he phoned me that after 15 years, he has landed a big role in one of the serials. Like that. And some fellows have recently gone.
And today, at least Kannada theatre, a lot of them have moved to film industry and also TV
Yeah.
in Kannada.
The Kannada theatres, I noticed, it's become technically very rich.
It is. Oh, do you follow Kannada theatre as well?
Not much, but I know what's happening around.
Right.
Not because of this one. I don't get much chance to go anywhere outside. Hindi, English also very. My chances not gone limited, but I know what's happening.
Right. Who are the people who are kind of influenced you from a point of writing, directing a theatre, or even story writing? Well, what was that influence apart
It
from? I
was
mean, you did mention you used to write well, started with the writing letters, but were there people who inspired you, or their books or works that inspired? I think Calcutta is a literally active
I
space.
don't know how to answer that question, but I know I can tell you this much that I always was very concerned about the receiver point of view. I'm being a consumer. If I watch a play, I watch what will irritate me and what will absorb me. That aspect always.
That was your product manager
Yes.
thinking.
I didn't mention you, but when I started writing, I started a magazine called e-magazine called Kalayan Patrika.
Oh,
That is a big effort I had. Again, from the same project. Then at that time internet was new, but I scanned all over no magazine, no e-magazine was there in Hindi anyway. English was there. Then I came to know that one magazine is being published by one Rohit Happy from New Zealand. I contacted him and he used to, take a picture of the one picture to upload. So when you want to read a story, I mean, half a minute, you'll be just waiting for it to download.
yeah.
So I had a lot of friends here in technical. This one, I thought, I don't want that. I want some font. So those times you type the stuff and put the font on this one. Ask the fellow to load on who was reading.
Download the font and then the script. Yeah.
That used to take 2 minutes. I'm like, who will read that? And nobody. Then finally we decided we come to a solution of this one. It's called push font. The fonts are put in the server itself. From there, it pushed this one along with the lift came. So that technology was new. So we developed. We didn't develop. I used
Till
this
the
and that.
Unicode fonts came in, this was the
It
challenges in
came
Indian
much
language.
later. At that
Correct.
time, I believe me or not, I was the second magazine in the world on Hindi.
In Hindi.
After
Which year was that?
I was the second one. Within 3 months, because the tale became the 1,000 years, they're mushrooming all over the place. But at that time, I was the second person to have put Kalayan in the Patrika on this one. And
For which year?
while doing this, I met lot of literary fellows. I used to write to them, send me this. So those contacts are still there. So from there, I learned how to do, what not to do.
So
And at
which
that
year
time,
was this Kalyan Patrika?
yeah, at that time, also we used to have a good good discussion forums. Suppose you run into some problem with the theater, you just put it there. People used to help you.
So
Those are them. And also had this Yahoo groups. And
correct.
there are two Yahoo groups I was there, and they're global Yahoo groups. And the idea was to develop Hindi. Whatever problems you're having in Hindi, develop. A lot of people from this America, New York, and all, they were there. They're learning Hindi. So they used to teach us. We used to discuss that how to standardize this Hindi. There is no standardization. We used to standardize this. So a lot of fellows are there at that time still. So from there, if you interact, then you get a lot of ideas what to do, what not to do.
Uh, when was the first time you experienced some kind of a celebrity movement? And was there any? When was the first time?
I'm a very shy person, but I remember there is one Hindustan Kasturba Road in Delhi, Hindustan Times building. It was Mrinal Pandey, one was very famous. She's a very famous, this one, what do you call it, literary figure. I went there and I went to her office regarding some story. Then I just sent my name and card, this and that. There was a hush in the clerical from this one. Mathura Kalauny, Mathura Kalauny. Then I felt great. People know my name at that time. And then they don't know you by name, but they know your name. That is the only thing that you feel that you are celebrating. Nowadays, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but probably if the mobile phones were there, they would have been selfies taken too.
Yes.
Uh, what was the was there any criticism that you faced which you think was like, wow, you got to really see the way you write? Was there any such experience?
Theatre, yes, I have received this one. It was the Times of India. One great play I did was Ashal Ka Ek Din, one of the very known plays. So since you are doing Ashal Ka play, Ashal Ka Ek Din is Mohan Rakesh. Anybody who is doing this play, you think 3-4 times before doing this play because it's such an established, known play. You can't just go and stage this. So I consulted a lot of Bangalore fellows, even Kannada theatre. They helped me. I was even what makeup and this Nani.
Oh yes,
Yeah, he
Prakash
was
Bedawadi's father.
his mother, the father. I had consulted him also. And Prakash Belwadi's cousin, Shiv Kumar, was in that play.
Okay, okay.
So I know that family very well. Even Pradeep Belwadi, Prakash Belwadi, I know them very well. So at that time, when I doing this play, the play was a great thing. I did in Guru Nanak Bhavan. Next day, my whole team was, their face was very down. One fellow had one, Sanora Jha, had written everything wrong about the play. There was no lights was wrong, costume, every aspect of the play, she criticized. So I said, when the people say that hota hai, ya chodo. Then I saw this whole group was down in only one show. Then I wrote to the editor of this one. Look, it's very difficult to build a play. Then I told him that I have consulted these fellows on this one. And Samaraj has only said that did not like. What does she like? What she has not told us what was wrong with the play. See, I didn't like the lights. But what aspect of light you didn't like? What aspect of dialogue you didn't like? Dialogue is not written by me, written by Mohan Rakesh. So after that, I think some action was taken. I haven't seen Sonora after that. So that was only the big criticism I faced. Otherwise, generally okay. People like the play.
Uh, is there anything that you or you still have a plan of doing something, taking it to a different format, perhaps a web series or a short film or a
Mm,
movie?
mm.
You ever
No,
entertained the thought?
no. Films are always out. I mean, film is a too involved thing. Here I'm comfortable. Film is very difficult. It's not easy. A lot of fellows have gone. The one guy is called Ganesh Pandey. I hope he listened to this one. Ganesh Pandey was in one of the play with me, and he liked the play. And he liked the play so much that he was in tech line, and when he went to America, he just gave up the job, learned theater there again. And after theater, he started doing theater there itself. Because of the visa problem, he came back to Bangalore. He came to Bangalore, then joined. Then from here, he went to Bombay and joined films and started writing for the films. And he did some lot of commercials. And he came in Arakshan, I think. Arakshan film he came. He was a lawyer to Amitabh Bachchan. He was a big company at that time. Then afterwards, I heard that he said that I used to buy, because my younger daughter was in Bombay, I used to go and meet him at that time. And he just left the company. He just left the films. He says that was not my cup of tea. There's no creativity, no nothing. He did not like that. He has gone back to US. He's doing his IT job and does theater. He's happy with that. So
How
people also.
easy or difficult is it to get a crew for your drama, right? You still stage. How do you get people to act with in your plays?
Act is easy. Everybody
No,
wants to
but how
act.
do you get them to act? How do you I do understand you have a group, but how do you
Mm.
get people to come in and
So we normally, I don't announce first of all. Generally, we're doing plays, so I know that I've got a pool of 20 people somewhere. I always call them upon. But when we started a play, first I asked these guys, some of them are they available, some of them are not available. Then we were not able, then I started doing a play. Then people started, start applying. So I asked them, then I take audition. So hit rate is 10%. Out of all the fellows who want to, only 10 qualify. That's sincere. Some fellows want, just few rehearsals, go there and go to films. That kind of a lot of fellows are there. Some youngsters, they don't have any idea about so many rehearsals are required. But many people have left also. But you get for acting, it's not that difficult. But for backstage, it's very tough. People do not come for backstage. Only the fellow who love theater, they come. So whoever doing backstage with me, normally you are the old fellows who have already done the play with me. Just they help out because they know how difficult it is to get backstage. He says, I will not, they say that I don't have time, I will not come for the acting. But I'll definitely come for a backstage.
hmm, interesting? Well, I was asking you because you remember you staged this play, and that's the only Hindi play I've ever done. And I was also acting after 22, 23 years. Uh, Before that, I was on stage. So after more than 20 years, and I think there also it was like they were short of people, right? Okay, can you do, or you can do.
Yeah. But that was, you talk about Ram Lila, no?
Ram Leela, right?
Right? But because that was huge, there's so many characters. And we want to involve everybody from the building, from the society.
But uh, it's always a fight to get enough people, right? Particularly if you still
Yeah.
want to engage everybody. Not everybody, people are comfortable watching, but not getting on to doing something.
Yeah. So what the formula we applied was for the main role for the story to continue. We employed the serious people. And youngsters we do it for the dance scene, for war scene. We bring
Right.
them.
Yeah. And but it looked like you had a kind of a framework to do that. We'll do this from the kids, we'll make this from these people.
Yeah, I did some homework. You are doing something. It's a play. For all said and done, it's a production.
Correct.
You had a costumes, you had the theater film, you had the makeup film, everybody was there.
Yeah, and it was still a huge
And
effort.
if you do it just for doing that, the people will not enjoy it now. I am sure that people who took part in it, they must have been enjoyed it, satisfied it. People still remember that.
I did. I surely did. It was for me that was the celebrity movement, right, where people
Yeah.
actually came and took pictures with. So that, but uh, as much as you were also trying to talk about diction, it's
Mm.
so like a South
Yeah,
Indian
yeah,
diction.
yeah. See,
Uh,
we,
uh,
uh,
how do you see uh, the the language itself is changing, right? I mean,
mm,
yeah, yeah, I'm a Kannadiga, right? I'm Cook, and Kannada has been my
mm,
uh, mother tongue, and
mm,
we grew up with Kannada, and I see Kannada is going through so much of change today. Uh, it's hard to find people who will speak Kannada without using English. I
mm,
have few Kannadiga friends where their children can't even read Kannada.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
So it must be
And,
same with many other Indian languages, right? Because
yeah, yeah,
everything is becoming
every Indian language is there. Almost every Indian. And first, they don't write in the script also. They write in Roman.
correct. Yeah.
So in my plays, I just said that it's a Hindi play, and I would like to keep the diction neutral because we're doing the play from Bangalore, and it is going on for everybody. Lot of so I don't want any, make fun of any language like Bombay wala make, and I don't want any accent unless the play requires that much. So it should be neutral Hindi. If you got Marathi accent, please correct that. So I'll tell them that yeah, I took a lot of pain in correcting the diction first.
That's
In
where
this
I was
play,
asking, does it matter?
it does, it does.
Why? Why? I mean, today, when we are so open and free and easy and
It
comfortable
doesn't
in
gel, no? It doesn't
incorporating
gel.
so much of English in it,
And so
so
you and me are having some relation together in one scene. You are the Kannada actor, mine is Uttarakhandi accent. How will it gel? But if you are speaking in neutral, it is very jarring to hear.
no, but today our cities are the potpourri of everything, right? I mean, like our
No, no, I
community.
don't do.
So,
I don't do. I've been asked by people to do English. I'm like, I don't know English. I know only English and Hindi. Those are different languages. I do in Hindi.
you don't see yourself using
People
English.
appreciate. It's not that nobody's people appreciate even this particular play, Ashoka, because the period play. I just want kept the Hindi,
Yeah,
little
it's fair.
girl.
If it's period,
Yeah,
it makes sense to keep it like that, right? But
I
but you
kept it
also
that way.
written very contemporary.
Uh, so people do not. People appreciate. In fact,
Right.
the last play
And
was the Kayapalat was very contemporary. This one, but I kept the Hindi. I didn't. I didn't abuse Hindi. I
no,
didn't abuse it.
no, that's what I was trying to. I mean, it's not about abusing, right? That's the way,
Mm,
right? Even English today
mm,
has accommodated so many Indian words, also, right? I
yeah,
think guru
yeah,
is part of English today, and
mm,
uh, masala is English today.
yeah, yeah.
There are so many normal Indian words are in English. So it's so
Mhm.
true that language keeps evolving.
Yeah, that's okay. Words I use, but not I don't play with the grammar. People, people, people do not use proper grammar. That's why it becomes difficult. If your grammar is correct, no, then so many words you can utilize.
Yeah, but today the
And when
influence
the
of
word is already
American.
available, then why do you go? Why go for a foreign word? Because
So what do you think?
I believe our Indian language, Indian expressions are so rich. You don't need any foreign
Uh,
tadka in it.
s- See, some years ago there was a MIT report which said that 100 years from now, world will have only three languages:
Mm,
English, Spanish, and this Mandarin, right? The Chinese.
mm,
So, so that was maybe I think 5, 6, 7 years ago that report came in.
mm,
So, assuming even from today, 100 years from now, if the world is going to have three languages,
mm.
what do you think?
At that time, let those fellows worry. We enjoy Hindi. We enjoy language. Let's. I love language, even English language. See, another thing I kept on talking to people. If you do say for the argument, say you're doing Shakespeare play, Shakespeare, any play you're doing, you don't say that it was very tough. You should use the other word for that. You accept that, don't you? You try to pronounce that also.
No, but many Shakespearean plays have been experimented with contemporary English, right? I
Those are
mean, that's the
difficult,
way
but
to.
Yeah, they are doing with them. But generally, if you do that Shakespeare play written by Shakespeare, you will follow that. People they feel proud that I spoke that language.
No, but
Again,
yeah,
that pride
that is
doesn't happen
true.
with our.
But for more people to connect with it, it makes it convenient to make it contemporary, right? In that
Mm,
sense, most people would not have
yeah, yeah,
understood
yeah,
otherwise.
yeah. That's true. That's true. I'm not
So,
talking about that. I'm talking about the language.
so yeah.
I'm not,
So, uh, what do you think? Hindi theater will continue to thrive even?
yes, yes. You see, theater normally says the dying art, but they've been saying from the time of Kalidasa. Still surviving. In fact, in Bangalore, it is thriving.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bangalore is
Every rooftop is theaters are happening in Bangalore now.
right. And uh, who you think are the ones who are really doing good in Hindi theater, in your opinion?
Who means what?
People who are really contributing to Hindi theater, making it rich. Anybody you think are doing some good job?
Again, it's very difficult to tell you that often this name, but most of them are generally true to their art. They're doing good job. Most of them. There are few are there, they want a quick buck. They, many people do what they do is their model also is right. They have a workshop. Okay. They call people, they teaching workshop. From that workshop, they collect the people and do the play. That's also a good model. Many people doing that, though that happens very fast. The turnover is very fast. But generally, people who are doing that, they are sincere people. They're doing very good.
Yeah, and any other somebody who in Bangalore that you can identify? Because most of the other famous bigger Hindi production, it's typically Hindi film actors who are in doing some theater production, and they come
Mm,
to Bangalore. Otherwise,
mm,
other than these big stars, right, like Nasiruddin Shah, those
mm,
Pathak,
mm,
or the Ranjit Kapoor. I mean, very.
mm.
I mean, very obvious names, and they are the
Yeah,
ones who are identified with Hindi theater. But are there people apart from this Bollywood Hindi film folks who are also doing great work in Hindi theater?
yeah. Bollywood is not doing great work. Bollywood is that
I mean, these actors
yeah.
who are in the.
Pure, Hindi is, I think, Delhi, a lot of in Delhi, a lot of Hindi theatre is there. In Calcutta, a lot of Hindi theatre. Bangalore is there. But if you talk about Bombay, Bombay is, first of all, it's commercial. Very few, I may be wrong. Some groups are there, like Anka was one there, but that Dinesh Pathak was the person, he's no more. But generally, they do only similar to, Bombay language. Even there's some great actors are there. They thrive only on Urdu. Urdu को हिंदी में बोलते हैं. Hindi language is one. Pure Hindi is not there. They can only concentrate on few. Urdu this one.
And what about contemporary Hindi playwright? Is it happening? A lot of it is
Yeah,
happening.
it's happening. It's happening.
Was it?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought I was talking to somebody in Canada, and she was telling me that talk to any writer, they say that they are writing a film script or they're writing a web series, and
Mm.
nobody wants to write Kannada theater. I mean, that's what she was saying. So,
But the theatre writer money is still happening, I mean, they are not.
I don't know, it's
Theatre,
happening, but
theatre will always remain niche art. Very few writers, few actors, few groups. It doesn't pay money. You are putting money from your pocket. How long will you do that? So how many people will do that? If you want to earn money, if you want to make a living, You have to do web series.
But there are Hindi,
There
apart
are
from me,
Hindi,
of course,
there are Hindi, yes.
there are playwrights, playwrights.
Playwright. So most of them are unsung. You don't even know. Suddenly you find that one of, the this Anand Sweet Shop somewhere nearby.
Yeah, yeah.
Opposite there's a dirty bookshop. One bookshop is there, huge second-hand bookshop.
Uh-huh.
I just went there, but normally I go there. Went there, I saw that one whole CFC full of books. I asked him to pull it out, all dusty Hindi books. All 25 rupees you take it. I saw some of the great authors there. And great authors with some very good but unknown authors, but great books I found there. People are there, right? They may not be, known.
Right. So if you're for your next play, if it is not something written by you, if you have to choose from one of these, is there anything that you saw and you thought, okay, I should?
Yes, there are a lot of things are there. Like I thought I have not done justice to Premchand. I only did 4 or 5 stories. He's written 250 stories.
Right.
Each one, yeah.
I think Premchand is one Hindi writer. Any non-Hindi speaker will also recognize.
Yeah. But he was a very honest writer. Very honest, He's the only author, whatever he taught, he followed that. No double standard there. When I did last time, I didn't do his story. I said, Ek Shaam, Premchand ke naam. One evening with Premchand. So half of it was about Premchand, half of it is about his stories.
Oh, interesting. So you probably will get to see something from Premchand then next.
Yeah, Premchand, I want to do it. Yeah, there's a lot of demand also from the people. Not from the audience, from the people who want to do it. Let's do Premchand.
Well, honestly, I don't know how many are Hindi audience, Hindi theater interest group in the people, though we have people from, outside of India, also a lot of listeners. So if you want to give a shout out to people, what would you want to say?
Come and watch plays. Watch Priyadarshi Ashok happening on June 10th and 11th in Jagriti.
Well, any links, we'll put it up along with the podcast. So people,
Sure.
please look up the link below the podcast and come there and also perhaps interact with Mr. Kalauny there. Anything else you want to give?
Yeah, I did this play in Bangalore International Centre, 5 shows, all houseful. And it's very surprising. This is there are hatke play. I didn't expect such a big response. That's why it gave me let's be some more shows of this.
Wonderful.
I'll send you the link. The book, the tickets are already available in bookmyshow.com.
Wonderful. So look up and book your ticket, all of you, and also if your Hindi is not great or you're not into Hindi theater, but it's about history. So if you're a history buff, come get another perspective. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Kalauny, and it's wonderful. I know a lot of our conversations that I remember, we've spoken more about your work, your travels, so which is it's amazing. And perhaps I think a lot of your travel has also contributed to, apart from the cigarette tasting, contributed to your writing. And great. I wish you many more success and more theater work, and just you do enjoy what you do, so just keep doing what you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.